Planet Doug's guided tour of Kamphaeng Phet city here in Thailand begins right here. Where is here? To be honest, at this precise moment, I don't know, but there is a sign over there and I saw something in English on that sign. So I'm going to go over there, read the sign and find out what is the meaning of this place. I was actually on my scooter, which you can see here, and I'm on my way to the National Museum. I always like to start my visit to a historical town with a trip to the museum to sort of get my bearings, get a bit of history before I head out into the town. But on my way, as I said, I passed this place and it struck me as interesting. No time like the present to find out about a place. So this is Wat Kalotai. Wat Kalotai. So Wat, of course, means temple. And of course, much of what you see here in this city are ruins. So the entire temple does not exist anymore. This would be one part of the temple that still stands today. And the sign that I spotted is off here in the grass, so we'll head over in that direction. Keeping an eye out for snakes, of course. And as at many temples, roosters are popular as a donation from visitors. There's quite a collection here. And a lot of people have left offerings of drinks as well, as you can see. And they burn incense, light candles. And over there in the edge of the field, you can see what the province of Kamphaeng Phet is famous for. They're famous for a particularly tasty banana that is grown here. Look at that tree over there in the corner. All right, tall grass. Is this a snake haven? We'll keep an eye out for it. So I don't know much about this city or the historical park yet, but I do know just from looking at the map that the historical park is actually surrounded by and embedded in the city itself. So everywhere you go, just driving around town, as you can see, you're just going to run into a scattering of different sites. I think this is the main park itself. And I noticed on the map that it seems to be surrounded by kind of a rectangular canal. And because of the shape, I'm assuming that was dug on purpose as kind of a moat around this central core. The town of Kamphaeng Phet, of course, was part of the old Sukhothai kingdom, which I believe existed for about 200 years and is widely considered to be the original kingdom of Siam, the original kingdom of Thailand. And I think it operated from 1238 until 1438, when it was absorbed into the Ayutthaya kingdom. So I think that's how it goes. Sukhothai merging into Ayutthaya. And of course there were other kingdoms before Sukhothai. You start reading about the history, there's all kinds of small kingdoms being mentioned, but I think a lot of the historical records, whether written or otherwise, sort of all date from Sukhothai, and they've chosen that as a convenient starting point for discussing the ancient history of modern Siam and modern Thailand. So here in Kamphaeng Phet, as I said, was part of the Sukhothai kingdom. The capital of that kingdom was the city of Sukhothai itself, and there's a historical park in that city, larger than the one here, I believe. But this park and the one in Sukhothai are part of the same World Heritage protected site. So in fact, everything I'm seeing here in Kamphaeng Phet is actually part of the same World Heritage site as the ruins in Sukhothai itself. And as you read about this part of history, you see a lot of references to other neighboring kingdoms, such as what was going on in Burma at the time, invading armies from Burma, and the Khmer kingdom in what present-day Cambodia. And there was a lot of historical connections between the Khmer and Sukhothai, and I think you see that in the construction. In particular, when I was looking at this moat around the historical park, it struck me as very similar to the moats that I saw in Angkor Wat in Cambodia. And here is the main information sign. I'm very happy that there's something in English. So as I said, here's the name Wat Kalotai. Wat Kalotai. And there seem to be 3, 4, 5 different structures, though at the moment I only see one large one, which I guess would be the central one. And let's read a little bit of the English. Wat Kalotai was one of the magnificent ancient monasteries in Kamphaeng Phet. So it's a monastery. The Luang Prasert Chronicle called it Wat Yam. The large monastery used to be a military base for the Ayutthaya king when marching to Kamphaeng Phet to defeat the Northern Territory. Wat Kalotai has a large, magnificent laterite lotus bud chedi, which is still in a very good condition. And I find that quite interesting because the stone, like the bricks, are clearly laterite. So all these are laterite bricks, apparently. Continuing, the first 3 diminishing tiers, the base of the chedi, were made of laterite, whilst the 4th tier was made of bricks. Oh, okay, so laterite are just natural stone carved into a brick shape, and above that are actual bricks made in a kiln. Above these tiers, another level was added. The height of this level was increased by a double band of lotus petal base, in between which readings were introduced. On top of this level, a ruendatu with 2 diminishing levels and indented corners is found. Then the highest point of the chedi is located. Although in ruins, its beauty is still left to be seen. The locals told of 500 Buddha images that were placed around the whole chedi. On the top of the chedi, a Buddha image was enshrined. So yeah, well, that's all very interesting to read. Very happy that that is there in English. So we've got the main chedi and a viharn. I don't know what viharn is, and then subsidiary monuments. I just double-checked to make sure I had my years right, and the Sukhothai kingdom did last for 200 years, from 1238 until 1438, when, as I said, I believe it was absorbed into the Ayutthaya kingdom. And one thing I found quite interesting about that description is the fact that the base is made of laterite. The first 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 levels are made from laterite stone, and then above that they switch into brick. Ah, interesting. Let's get a close-up look at this laterite. So this is laterite, and my guess is that it is relatively soft and easy to carve into the shapes that you need. That's beautiful. Oh, and I love these. Look at that offering right there. Very beautifully handmade. There's another one here that has fallen over. So we've got this layer of laterite, layer 2, layer 3, and then the fourth one starts off as laterite, and then as you can see it turns into brick and goes up from there. Huh, let's move around to the other side, try to get the sun in a better position. One thing I find myself wondering is how much of this chedi has been reconstructed, because if it really does date all the way back to the Sukhothai kingdom, that makes it as much as 600 years old. And with this laterite and brick construction, could it possibly have stayed up like this for 600 years? Yeah, that's impressive. But yeah, I have no idea whether it's been reconstructed, but to me it looks, I mean, yeah, no historian here, I don't know, but it does look original to me. It feels like if that top part collapsed, that part up there at the very top, it feels like if that collapsed, it would be very difficult for anyone to recreate it with that particular rounded shape. Feels like if it did collapse, it would just be left in that condition. So I don't think it's been reconstructed. On the sign, they talked about subsidiary monuments, and I'm not quite sure what those could be, but there is a collection of what look to be water cisterns here in the back. These could easily be one of the associated monuments. Underneath that tree, you see a pile of laterite bricks and half of a warning sign. And I'm guessing that sign says, please don't take any of these bricks home with you. You know, they are part of the historical site, so leave them where they are. I remember when I visited Angkor Wat, there were signs, if I remember right, telling people, please don't pocket any of the ruins and take them away, even if they fall into the ground. Because if you get 20 million visitors a year, and every visitor takes away a 1-ounce stone, you know, by the time you're done, the whole monument is gone. So, and over here in the corner, I spotted something else, a little bit of digging going on over here. And another sign. Got the whole sign this time. I'll have to do a Google Translate to try and see what this sign says. But here's the other area where they've been doing some digging. But this is sort of what I would expect a brick structure that is 600 to 800 years old to look like. This is what I would expect. So it is quite astonishing that this chedi still stands in such pristine condition. Well, what have we learned on Planet Doug at my first monument in Kamphaeng Phet? We learned all about the Sukhothai kingdom, its relationship to the next kingdom, the Ayutthaya kingdom. And we learned about laterite stone. And we also learned that the sign here does not say, don't bring the bricks home. It says, don't throw your garbage here at the shrine. So that makes perfect sense. This monument has left me with a couple of questions, however. One is whether they used mortar in between the laterite bricks. I kind of want to say yes, because I think I can see mortar in between some of the cracks, but it could also be just some of the laterite that has softened over the centuries, or mud has just sort from rainwater has trickled in between. But I think there is mortar, but I'm not sure. And the other question I have is more about the Sukhothai kingdom in general. And this is a question I always have about history, is what was the estimated population of the kingdom? Because I think we often instinctively overestimate how large and significant early kingdoms were all around the world, because populations at that time were incredibly small by comparison to today. So we think of a kingdom, the Sukhothai kingdom, and we read about a military campaign where the armies of Sukhothai fought against the armies of Burma, or the Khmer kingdom, or the Northern Territory, the Lana kingdom, whatever it was. And I think we can't help but picture hundreds of thousands of troops going into battle against an opposing army of hundreds of thousands. And yet I'm sure the actual numbers involved in the fighting were much smaller than we imagine, because the population of the entire Sukhothai kingdom would have been quite small. But I wouldn't mind finding out exactly how small or how big. And maybe I can find that out during my time here in Kamphaeng Phet.